If thoughts were an actual living being, then I rebuke you. For you laid in the solid despite the onset of clues, then pooh-poohed my levees and mountains. The journey that I've had to overcome, you have not the right to deflate my plight, in spite of the traded, convoluted notions I've had to override. Hello everyone, welcome back to Poetry Journal Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Murder, and hope everyone had a good Easter. It's been warm recently in London, so, I think we're all kind of just presently, feeling good and positive. So, with all that being said, this is today's first quote. I wanted to kind of go through. I'll just read it again so everyone can kind of get more familiarized with it. If thoughts were an actual living being, then I rebuke you, for you laid in the solid despite the onset of clues, then pooh-poohed my levees and mountains. The journey that I've had to overcome, you have not the right to deflate my plight, in spite of the traded, convoluted notions I've had to override. This piece, I've named it Mental Debris. And just this quote, especially just this paragraph I just read, it's basically speaking on the ideals of things in your mind that work against you in a sense, even after the fact and everything's done and dusted, but it's almost like you can't move on, and these things just literally just hang around like redundant memories or just ideals that it's just irrelevant and just it stays. But in times of weaknesses and times unexpected time, it drains you, and that was the whole idea behind it. And for me, it's relevant because it's derived from the idea that thoughts and your feelings, tethered by self-doubt, can have you living stationary. And I say that to say that sometimes we don't realize, sometimes when we have these thoughts in our head and we think, we don't really feel, or we ignore it so much that we don't actually sense how much they kind of they impair us and keep us from moving on or being a better version of ourselves. So yeah, when you're stuck on replay because of the past or on your unfortunate situation, or whatever the case may be, in this case, the way I'm looking at it is example forms of trauma like hurt or pain, or one of the most common one I would say is rejection, and whether that's in form of like a relationship or something, whatever you find more relatable to you. But in this case, I think I use relationship because it's so it's a very common thing and everybody can relate to it. And like when you've been jilted by a lover in a sense, and you feel your perception of it is because maybe I wasn't good enough or something like that. And forms of rejection, I think as human beings, that's one of the things that it hits home when when we think about things like this, or when we feel our situation is because of, what somebody feels like we're not good enough or something like that. I felt like it just envelops a form of emotional trauma, and it gets real. In a sense, I think we're all victims sooner or later of certain factors of that nature. And it stays, in a sense. It only stays, it's also, it kind of like, it stains, it leaves a stain almost on your character. And, well, all being said, if you let it, but sometimes, trauma runs deep, and you don't, like I said, sometimes you don't sense how deep it is. And these are the things that takes place. For one, me especially, I've definitely experienced such situations in the past, whether, like I said, with a jilted lover or something like that. So it begs the need to depict such a situation. And these were the inspiration for, on speaking on it, or unpacking it, and further just expressing how I feel about it. And I feel what you could take from it. What's the idea I'm trying to give or express from this? Sometimes you are your worst enemy. And that's why it's so important that you have, when you go through a lot of us, we need therapy, man. Sometimes that's why therapy is such an important thing. Because it's kind of like, it gives you so much it gives you a chance to reflect on what's really going on. But yes, various ideals that we're speaking on, it just illuminates the fact that, self-care is important. Because after we go through whatever trauma we're going through, that's one of the main ways to overcome and be better, So me, for one, I think self-care is pivotal, or just doing for self, and just wanting better for your life, and taking yourself out of that negative or turmoil like situation. I think is very important, which is the reason why I wanted to so that's really what I wanted to unpack it and speak on it. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, next segment. Pondering the very moments, the draining complaints, the regrettable bloodstains, they stay in the crevices of the mind, like closets with toxins, waiting for the beautiful escape at my expense. When you've been through something, well, first let me speak on this. Like this paragraph that I'm speaking on, I think it's basically just speaking about when you've been through something, and fair enough, you overcome it, but it's almost like you still carry that baggage. And it's not like just it being there. It's almost like it's kind of like you're being tethered to your past and your situation pertaining to the past, that it's not relevant, but just the fact that it tarries around you and it's tethered. It does affect you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you've figured out your situation and you finally healed, there is nothing wrong with unpacking and going through a series of acknowledgement, kind of deciphering what makes sense, and what to place, like what was good, what was bad, what was your fault, what role did you play in your situation. I think a lot of us have issues with just speaking on ourselves in the brightest light, and just placing fault at our door, our feet, and be like, you know what, this is on me. But at the end of the day, the fact you came out the other side, for example, for me personally, I think the fact that you come out the other side, it's almost like, it's important to also acknowledge that it happened for a reason. And it's also important to not go back or look back. And that goes back to what we're saying about self-love. The fact that you practice such a culture in terms of self-loving yourself, or like even self-respect, is another way to look at it. I'm sure a lot of men can relate to just self-respect. And women, of course, both of us. It's important that you know that this doesn't go in line with self-respect or self-love. Because how can you love yourself and think, okay, I'm going to throw myself back into the terrible situation that I've escaped? Whether it's by a landslide, you did the right thing, or it's just like by the skin of your teeth, in a sense, or just like you barely made it out, sane or in one way. I think it's important to acknowledge certain situations like that. Why? Well, I think it's quite simple. Because it wasn't meant to be. Whether it's because whatever it is, actually, the reason could be many things, but if it wasn't meant to be, sometimes it's important, or it's just simply just be like, that's okay, like it's all right. Because you have to give yourself that green light to actually just be fine, be good, to finally drop that baggage and move on with your life. And I think that's the point I want to take away from this piece. It wasn't meant to be, and that's okay. Simply put. Okay, everyone. I want to thank everyone for listening. I know I have an audience out there, and I just want to show my appreciation, and I thank you for listening to what I have to say. Also, I have, of course, Poetry Journal out right now, available on Amazon. One of the keywords I use, one of the easy keywords to discover my book is called, if you type in I am Groot into Amazon, and it would easily pop up. Also, I'm having a free giveaway right now for my short story, Into the Abyss. on Amazon. So you can type in Alex Murdoch, and that should pop right up. But either of my books, you can click on my my hyperlink name. The name should be hyperlinked, and once you click on that, it should take you directly to all the books or directly to the profile. And this free, you can find Into the Abyss there, which is a short story I have on giveaway right now. And this is a short period. It's not going to be for long, so I would just encourage everyone to just, if you haven't read my book before and you want to find out what my writing is about, what I'm writing about, etc., whether it's poetry or short story, then I would advise you to get that. It will be there for a short period. So of course, I'm available you can reach out to me, Poetry Journal, Instagram, PO3TRYJOURNAL at Poetry Journal. WordPress, Dream Imagine Express, and or you could just search my name in, like I said, Amazon or even Google. I should pop up. So yeah, it's not hard to find me. But I've always thank everyone for their support, and until next week, take care.